folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today we're going to talk about what we can learn from the events going on around us, and very specifically one event that is happening right before our eyes, and that is the collapse of Sri Lanka. 2 or 3 years ago, really when I first started this channel, one of the things that I talked about frequently was observing Venezuela and the collapse that was happening in Venezuela and what we could learn from that. And now the same thing, at least somewhat, is happening in Sri Lanka. And I want to go into that because this is, I don't believe, just a random thing that happened because they just, managed things poorly. I think this is all part of what we're seeing going on around the world with the Great Reset and the World Economic Forum. But more specifically today, let's talk about, that and how we can get ourselves prepared for that. Before I get started, a couple of more meetings to talk about. If you are in upstate New York, there's a meeting August 6th at 10 o'clock in the morning in Del Mar, New York. August 6th in Del Mar, New York. There is an email that should be popping up right here. And if you want some more information about that, please email this person. He's kind of the guy in charge. And they're having this meeting up there. I believe they have these on a somewhat regular basis. So for you upstate New Yorkers, if you live in that area and are looking for others like you, certainly shoot him an email. And then for those of you that live here in my area, which is the Central Missouri Ozarks, our meeting that we host every month is happening this weekend. So if you're interested in that, you live around here and you want to come, please consider to do that. It's open to the public. And it's a big facility. We expect a pretty big turnout this time because we have a special guest he's a dentist and a prepper, and he's going to be teaching us a class on how to put together an emergency dental kit. If everything goes to haywire and you can't get to a dentist, how are you going to take care of your teeth in an emergency? And so he's going to teach everyone how to put together a kit like that and talk to us about those things. And so that meeting is this Sunday, the 17th. The meeting starts at 2 p.m., doors open early around noon, and it is a very family-friendly event. So think of like a family reunion kind of thing. It's a potluck. People bring stuff. If you want to, you can, and talk and get to know each other and plan and network. And then we have the meeting, and people stay afterwards also. So if you're interested in that meeting and how to get there, shoot me an email at this email address right here. And I am working on getting caught up. I've got a few still to do, but I'm trying to stay somewhat caught up with no more than just a 2 or 3 day lag time on getting back to my emails. All right, so let's get into this. I'll let you know. Even though I've been thinking about this and following this, a lot of the ideas for this that kind of really pulled it all together for today's video, I listened to someone else. But I'm not really copying their stuff. It's just they really inspired me. And it's Glenn Beck. I know some of you, and I'm the same way. I agree with him on some things and disagree with him on others. But anyways, he did a show on his podcast a few days back talking about this. And so this is, I think he hit it just right with this one. What he did is he pointed out that Sri Lanka, and a lot of us think of Sri Lanka, if you even know anything about it other than it just being some random country, may have this idea that Sri Lanka is just this little third world country that struggles all the time. And a lot of it's from folks my age and older, because back in the 80s and into the 90s, they went through a pretty big civil war there. But that's kind of not been the case for the last decade or so. And they've actually become a fairly prosperous country for their size and everything. And they've developed a middle class, which is a big deal for a developing country. The tourism industry has gotten to be pretty big in their country. A lot of people go there, and if you watch any videos or see photographs from there, they have a very modern, developed country, big cities, and all that. And in the last few years, and here's the clincher, in the last few years, they have become kind of the poster boy, the poster child for the World Economic Forum and the Great Reset. In fact, the World Economic Forum has done articles in the past on how Sri Lanka has kind of taken the lead from a lot of countries by developing and redeveloping their country into a zero carbon, green kind of economy, and that they've embraced this shareholder capitalism and all the things that the World Economic Forum talks about. They have fully, completely embraced it, and they brag about it. Whereas pretty much every other country, even if they embrace certain things, they're not out there bragging about the fact that they're doing it because the World Economic Forum tells them to. But this country was different. They have. And so a lot of their things, they've redone a lot of energy where they're trying to push towards, green energy. The things that we all know just don't really work for people, at least not right now. They have overextended themselves. They have gone into a great amount of debt trying to convert their country to these. It kind of sounds familiar to us that we have this plan, this new Green Deal plan that the Biden administration has put out to convert America into this, green utopia, but there's no way of coming up with the money to pay for all that. So we're just going to print. We're going to print a lot of money. I mean, we're $31.5 trillion in debt already. What's another, 20, 30, or $50 trillion on top of that? It's just numbers on a computer. That's all. And so that's what they've done. And we can see very quickly the repercussions of their actions. It's happened in just a short amount of time, where Sri Lanka, just in the last 3 or 4 months, went from a fairly stable nation to complete, rubble. I mean, their president is running off into exile. The people have basically kicked him out by force. There has been violence in the streets. People are already, in just a 3 or 4 month time period, have already been numerous accounts of violence and even murders on the streets over food. People are hungry and they're killing each other or attacking each other over food or gasoline. They have had to put police and military officers at gas stations and grocery stores because people have just completely lost control. This, I believe, is something that we should all be well aware of and be learning from. And I know that there's going to be many of you that say, well, don't even begin to say that that's where America's headed because we're too big to go that direction. We're too big, we're too stable, we're too prosperous, we have too many resources. I mean, they're just a little island nation and they don't have a lot of resources, and that's why it happened to them. Okay. If you want to use that argument, that's fine. But the fact is that we and many other countries, especially European countries, are headed down that same path. And you can, you want to search for Sri Lanka videos of people protesting and going crazy in the streets, and it's all over. It's not hard to find this stuff. This isn't some obscure news that no one else knows about. The fact is this is also happening in many places in Europe and other places in the Middle East. This is happening in actually quite a few countries around the world. And I talked about this, I believe, in yesterday's video a little bit of how there seems to be some pushback. And that could possibly be the case. And I don't want to be the Debbie Downer pessimist. But I'm starting to lean to the fact that, or to the side that this is less about pushback and more about it's orchestrated that way. Because if you've watched my channel for any length of time, one thing that I have said repeatedly is their plan, their big globalist plan, the only way for it to really work is that they have to bring everything down. They have to crash everything down, because no sovereign nation or sovereign people are going to give up their sovereignty for this globalist utopian plan if they're stable and strong. If they've got a strong economy and they've got plenty of resources and their society is stable and there's just not a lot of problems, why would anyone say, okay, yeah, things are great, things are awesome, but, I'm going to give up all my sovereignties to this global entity so that they can do whatever with me? No one's going to do that. That's why they call it a reset, folks. What is a reset? Have you ever reset your phone? You ever reset your computer? What do you do when you reset it? You don't improve it. You don't add something to it, do you? You don't take your phone or your computer and you add stuff to the computer, hardware or software, and say, oh, it's reset. No, you bring that thing down to nothing. You turn the power off. It goes down to zero. It starts all over again. You're basically rebuilding it from new. That's really what a reset is. And that's what they're saying. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just a nice little term, build back better. Oh, we're going to build it back. Build it back. Well, if everything is working and stable and functioning, what's there to build back? You don't build something back that's already there. You build things back that have been completely destroyed. Your house right now, how do you build back your house? How do you build it back better? If you want to build your house back better, how do you do that? You don't. You have to demolish your house and then rebuild it from the beginning, and you're going to make it better. So if you listen to the words that they say, they flat out tell you their intentions are not to improve the world that we live in or improve the country that we live in. Their intentions are to destroy it, bring it down to nothing, and then start over again with their plan and their ways. And that's what we're seeing, I believe, in Sri Lanka. I believe that they're bringing it down to zero. And the people will be so desperate that when the World Economic Forum and the IMF and the United Nations and the World Health Organization and all of these other global tentacles come in and say, okay, we understand your country is absolutely destroyed. Your economy is destroyed. Your people are so desperate. They're dying in the streets, but we have a plan. We'll help take care of you. We'll bring your economy back up into the black. We'll help your health. We'll bring food in. We'll bring oil in. We'll bring it all in, and we'll even pay to rebuild it. We'll pay to rebuild it. We'll put new buildings up. It'll be great, but it'll be under their control, their influence. And so that's what we're seeing happen. I firmly believe it. It's something that there's another country that we haven't heard much about in the last few months, but we were for a while, and that's Kazakhstan. Do a little research on Kazakhstan. And for the last decade, Kazakhstan has been paraded around as this great utopian of tomorrow, that it's the first great cities of the country of the 21st century. Now, most of you probably think of Kazakhstan as some little, mostly third world nation of farmers out in the middle of nowhere, and around Afghanistan, and that's where, well, it probably is. But the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and all of these globalist entities, their plan is to rebuild Kazakhstan into something new. And several months back, we saw a lot of turmoil and disruption and people rioting in the streets and trying to, take over government buildings. And I believe it was all done on purpose. It's all being done to bring things down, to make things chaotic, because they firmly live by the mantra of order out of chaos. Well, who's going to create that chaos? Are they going to just sit around and wait for that chaos to happen naturally? Absolutely not. They are the authors of that chaos and confusion. And then they will also present the new plan, the new deal, the great utopian. And that's what they're going to do. Now, as far as how do we get ready for this, same thing that I've been talking about every day on here for the last 3 or 4 years. We have to become as independent from that system as we can. Yes, stocking up food is great, and you should be doing that. Everyone should be doing it. You should be stocking up on food, water purification, medicines, the tools and everything. But the bottom line is you need to work on your self-sufficiency. I did an interview yesterday with an online radio station. When that airs, I'll let you folks know. But one of the things we talked about on this radio station is this show is not so much the details of prepping, which they're very important, and we did cover them briefly, of food and stocking up and that kind of stuff. But we really focused on the resiliency and the self-sufficiency of this lifestyle. Whether you're doing it on property like where I live, or whether you're doing it in a downtown apartment in Chicago or St. Louis or wherever, finding your own self-sufficiency and your own independence. And then your independence with a group, with a community, is vitally important, because the biggest thing that their plan requires is that folks depend on them. That's their biggest plan. You can go all the way back to the Roosevelt administration of building a society that is dependent upon them, this nanny state that we've all heard about for decades. And we're seeing the culmination of that nanny state. People that can't function, they can't function on a daily basis, it seems, without the state telling them how to live their lives and what they can do. And the systems, the supply chains and the utility systems and everything, which are all intertwined with the state and the big businesses that all make up the World Economic Forum, they all are controlling every aspect of your life if you allow them to. And so the only way, again, for their plans to work is if we give over our independence to them. And so that's why I say that the best thing that you can do, the best act of rebellion you can do, is to just be self-sufficient. Grow your own food. Simple. Preserve it. Learn to do things on your own. Learn to tend to your own injuries and wounds and illnesses, and then work together as a community, whether it's through gardening or helping each other in many, many other ways. This is where it's headed, because I think, according at least to their plans, and this isn't something I've made up, this is according to Klaus Schwab himself, their end game plan is to move everyone into these big, modern, high-tech fourth industrial revolution cities, mega cities they call them, and the rest of us that choose to not live that way, well, then we're just cut off from society. We're out here in the boonies on our own, no supply chains, no utilities, nothing. And if that's their plan, and if that's how they want to play this game, then I'm okay with that. But it starts with you becoming as self-sufficient as possible. Maybe someday you can move to a place out in the country. And until then, work on your self-sufficiency now. Learn how to grow food in your house with hydroponics and aquaponics and grow lights and potted plants on your porch. Work on that now, today, because that's how you're going to overcome everything that's happening. It doesn't matter if you just started yesterday. You too can be as self-sufficient as possible. I mean, you can push yourself. It's not going to be easy. This isn't an easy journey. Many of our ancestors forged trails across this nation back in the old pioneer and homesteading days, and some of them didn't make it. Some of them were ill-prepared. Some of them weren't willing to put forth the effort that it took to do what they did. But many of them did survive. And I'm not saying that the world is going to end up in that exact scenario again, but we may just have to live a lot more independent of the systems around us in the very near future, because that's apparently where they want us to be. Either living in chaos or living under their thumb. And it's your choice which one you want to do. Folks, get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.